was shady. I was hiding it. I was just trying to do it whenever I can. It was one of the few things in my life that I really got pretty giddy about, excited about, looked forward to. And when I stop and think about it, like most everything in my life revolved around alcohol and drinking and when we were going to drink again. It wasn't about going out to dinner with friends. It was about drinking. That was the event where for normal drinkers or people who can drink responsibly, the event is going out for dinner. But if I knew I was going to be able to have some drinks and it was with, sort of authorized drinking, then there's a good chance that I would probably pregame, right? I would have a couple of drinks beforehand because, I wasn't ever going to drink where I didn't feel it. That was sort of the intention, was to feel it. It wasn't about going out to dinner with friends. And so there was just a lot of things in my life where, we'd go out to the bar and happy hour and what started out seemed sort of harmless of a day here and a day there. It turned into 2 or 3 days a week. And all of a sudden, you really blur lines. You have these lines. You say, I'm never going to cross that line. And then all of a sudden you've crossed the line, whether it was, well, I'll never leave work early to go drink. But maybe you did leave work early to go drink, or I'll never drink during the work day. And maybe you did go have a beer and then went back to the office where you said you'd never do that. So it just, lots of things got out of control. And that's the progressive nature of it, where I think a lot of times people are not honest with themselves because they think, well, they compare out, and the alcoholic is somebody who lives under the bridge, and they look at their life and they, I got a great job and I make great money, and I haven't lost anything. And so in that moment, that may be true, but it could progressively get worse, and usually does get progressively worse to the point where maybe, it's unrecognizable after a while. So lots of emotions there when you talk about that. I was definitely not a great partner to Michelle and Lila, definitely not a great dad. If I could put them off to do something for myself, it was a lot of selfish behavior, which revolved around drinking.
Mm-hmm.
So,
mm-hmm. So when you think about when you look back and when that started, it just didn't hit you like a freight train. It was a slow progression, it seemed like. And I come from a family of alcoholics. I mean, my lineage goes way back. I don't know a family member in my lineage that wasn't drug or alcohol abuser. And one thing that I picked up on in my observations was that if there wasn't something that they regretted deeply from the day before, there was no problems, right? I only have a couple drinks type mentality. And, they a lot of times wouldn't, fist fight somebody or do something that would be like, obviously you shouldn't do that thing.
Right.
Right. And then just wake up the next day like there was no problem. And it starts at seemingly that way. What was your experience with it?
Yeah. So, it did get progressively worse. And so what was happening was, as I was consuming more, I would have parts of evenings where I didn't remember details. And one I can remember specifically, a lot of Saturday mornings and Sunday mornings, I'd wake up and Michelle there'd be a little bit of a cold shoulder. And I was like, hey, what's wrong? We had a great time last night. She'd say, you had a great time last night. I'm like, what do you mean? She's like, you wouldn't stop talking, and I'm already talkative anyway. You wouldn't stop talking. Nobody can get a word in edgewise. You think you're so funny. You just don't know when to stop. And it's interesting because I know people who drink responsibly. They might overdo it in a social environment. Their wife might give them the tap and they stop, or they might go to water. If the party was going on, if we were still socializing, I always had a drink in my hand, and I didn't put it down until the party ended. So there was never a point where I had any real, any real ability to not continue to do it in that moment. And so I would have moments of evenings where I didn't remember certain things that were occurring. And that's when I started getting kind of scared. When I would drink to the point where I didn't remember dessert. She would make some comment about dessert. I'd say, what are you talking about? I didn't remember parts of the evening. So there were parts in there where I was blacking out, and that was happening more frequently. And that's when I realized that this is really becoming a problem. You know, a lot of people who can drink normally and who drink in social situations and are responsible with it, they don't contemplate when they're alone with their thoughts, I wonder if I have a drinking problem. If you're someone who contemplates, I wonder if I have a drinking problem, it might be an indication that maybe you do. That, you know, if you're contemplating, I wonder if I have a drinking problem, then you might, you know.
And you got to that place when you started to realize that you weren't remembering things from the night before, where when you woke up the next day and you were sober, you started saying, okay, this mental state of mine, I'm starting to think that I might have a problem here. You know, what was the catalyst? What was like the thing, the day where, you know, we talk about May 4th, May 5th, like that seems to be the day when you were like, not me, never again. This isn't who I am. I'm done with this.
Yeah.
Talk to me about that.
I remember that day like it was yesterday. Here it was 5 years ago, but I know Michelle and Lila had gone to my parents' house in Durham for my Lila's cousin's birthday party. And I had to stay behind. I had to stay behind because I was hosting for the bank I worked at. I was hosting an event, and it was a drinking event. Certainly it was a bank event, but it was disguised as a drinking event. So I had to be there. Of course, Friday night we drank. Saturday, all day long drinking. I talked to Michelle that evening on the phone, and I was pretty slurry. I was pretty still feeling pretty good. And in that moment when I talked to her, I felt, I knew how disappointed she was in me. And she said, "Did you drive home this way?" And I said, "Yeah, you know, no big deal, you know." And the disappointment from her came through, and I knew right then she's gone. Like it was clear as day in that moment. She is gone. And normally on that Sunday when she came back, she would have come back at a normal time. She was much, much later coming home. She was very disappointed in me, very quiet. And I was very somber on that Sunday, May the 5th, 2019. I was reflective, and I made a decision in that moment. I'm done. I'm going to go get help. I'm going to finally go get help. And I may have said time and time again, "Hey, you know, I probably need some help." But I was never really serious about it. You know, it was almost to appease her, or just to buy time, or just to get her off my back. And so that day she came home, and I said to her that night, I said, I'm gonna get some help. And she said, "I don't care what you do." She looked me right dead in the eye and said, "I don't care what you do." And, you know, it was, you know, I deserved it. I deserved every bit of that. And I had done all the things to erode her trust, to just be shady. I was, you know, lying to her. And so I was somebody who couldn't be trusted. And I didn't love that about me. And so I kept my word. I found a counselor to talk to. I looked it up. I mean, I didn't have a referral. It was so strange how it all kind of came to play, but I just started going to counseling. And I took one small step, and it was a step of faith, but it was a small step in that moment to finally get help. And the second hour I was meeting with the counselor, she said, "You know, we can do an assessment if you want to." I mean, this is somebody I didn't know. Right? This is somebody I never met. I had spent 50 minutes with her. And then the next week, I'm here for my second appointment. I roll in there, and the first thing she says is, "We can do an assessment if you want to, but I'm going to just go ahead and tell you you're an alcoholic and you don't need to drink anymore." And that might be hard for some people to hear. I was actually relieved in some way, because now I kind of knew, by somebody who had, you know, initials after their name and was smart in this stuff, okay, I know what I am now. All right. So now I know what I am. I don't have to think. I don't have to contemplate. I wonder if I am. I wonder. Somebody's telling me this is what you are. my professional opinion, and I have all the initials after my name to prove that this is who you are. Okay, so let's get a plan now. Let's tackle this. And so we started doing it. We started putting the work in right then. We started putting the work in. And it's been an amazing, amazing journey. Somebody 5 years later that I still talk to on a regular basis.